Good evening. I'm Kelly Wright. Thanks for joining us as we spend this next hour together. As always, I do sincerely hope that you're safe and well, taking care of yourself and your family. Opening observations tonight. Have we crossed a bridge too far in terms of sending federal troops into U.S. cities? That is a question that must be answered. You see, what's happening now in the city of Chicago, the mayor of that city, Lori Lightfoot, has stated, is our democracy at stake? That is what she is concerned about. That after learning that President Trump may be considering sending federal troops to the Windy City to deal with the violence there. In a non-related news conference, the mayor said this, our democracy is at stake, and I'll be darned if I'm going to let anybody, even if their name is Mr. President, bring those kind of troops to our city and try to take off our residents. Now, her comments come amid the president making repeated pledges that he would resort to using federal troops to stop the violence. The Chicago Tribune and the Chicago Defender published reports recently indicating the U.S. Department of Homeland Security is planning to deploy 150 federal agents to Chicago this week. This comes on the heels of a weekend of peaceful protests that turned ugly and violent on Friday after some protesters dressed in black tried to take down the statue of Christopher Columbus. The mayor, though, says this, we don't need federal agents without any insignia taking people off the streets and holding them, I think, unlawfully. Now, the president has said he is the president of law and order. You recall those statements that he made publicly, and he obviously intends to make that stick, even recently blaming the violence in Chicago and New York on the mayors of both cities. And he states that it does require putting more boots on the ground. But that, in fact, could backfire. It really does require more efforts, if you will, for communities and police to come together. The police must earn the trust of the Black community, and the Black community must confront the ills of their neighborhoods, the violence that goes on. Block to block, they must deal with it, becoming their brother's keeper and not their brother's killer. And those are my opening observations. So my first guest to discuss all of this as it pertains to Chicago and other cities is political analyst Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver. And Doc, this is really a difficult time for so many mayors in cities like Chicago, Seattle, Kansas City, even Washington, D.C., where we've seen federal troops move in and actually disperse peaceful protesters. What do you think the president is aiming for in threatening to do this?
This is a political stunt. So this is not unusual with him. You might recall that over the course of the midterm election, he also sent federal troops to the Mexican border, claiming that we were about to be invaded. And then all of a sudden, after the elections, this threat that apparently was so imminent prior to the election completely dissipated. And it's because there was no threat there to begin with. He's doing the same thing right now. He is using these different special forces, which really we aren't even sure exactly who they are and what forces they are specifically. He's using these special forces as a political stunt. And I'm glad that these mayors are saying we're not falling for it.
The bottom line is that it really smacks of being undemocratic, and this is a president of a democracy. Mm-hmm. And to that end, should we all be concerned about the president using the power of his office to actually put federal troops on the ground in cities where there's been no letter to invite him into that area? Although in the case of Chicago, there was a police union chief who actually sent the letter to the president. But the president should have at least conversed and had a conversation with the mayor of that city.
Yeah, the last I heard, a police union chief is not an elected official.
Right.
This is absolutely ridiculous. And what's interesting to me is that it's completely counter to the argument that Republicans have made for decades, right? These Republicans have been the sort of states' rights party, to be perfectly honest. And the fact that you have this president who is trampling all over the ability of mayors and governors to make decisions on their own when it comes to this issue in terms of dealing with protests in their state is absolutely ridiculous. While on the other hand, when it comes to saving people's lives via coronavirus, he doesn't want to help. And in essence, he's telling those same people, y'all figure it out amongst yourselves. So clearly, this is a situation where he has made the decision that he just wants to use this as a political stunt to really be able to have highlights that he can show on certain networks that are favorable to him, where he can bring about this air of being the tough on, I guess, crime and disorder president, when really all he's doing is ushering in an autocracy and flouting the whole basis of what we consider to be a democracy.
Yeah, and my understanding that these troops are coming from the Department of Homeland Security. And as you know, he was trying to do this through the Defense Department. And the Defense Secretary said, no, this is not happening. The top general said, no, this is not happening. We will not use troops on American people who have the right to protest. And you'll recall that recently, the president was talking about free speech. Yeah. And yet it seems that he's going so far as to be willing to violate that, all in the name of, quote unquote, being the president of law and order. There's something wrong about this approach to deal with it. Why can't he sit down and have a conversation with the mayors of those municipalities? And furthermore, if he's concerned about violence on the streets in Chicago, I've stated this once before, why not have a conversation with the people of Chicago who are on the front lines to mentor youth and try to save the lives of youth?
Absolutely. I mean, that's not really what his goal is, right? That's not his end game, to really do anything to help the youth or to save the people of Chicago. I mean, he really doesn't care. One of the things I think he's been very clear about is he really doesn't care about anybody. That is why we have now coming up to 200,000. We'll be at 200,000 in a couple of months, probably, in terms of coronavirus deaths. So what makes you think that he cares about what's going on in Chicago? This is all, once again, it is a political stunt. He wants to play the role of this law and order president, tough on protesters. But, you know, we remember just recently, not so long ago in Charlottesville, when there were protesters there who were white supremacist, Nazi members, KKK members. All of a sudden, it was good people on both sides. So we can see how he is acting in terms of really where his alliances lie. It has nothing to do with free speech. It has nothing to do with safety. It has nothing to do with any of those things. He is just doing everything he can possible to be able to flout the rule of law as it relates to what we know to be the case in democratic societies, and really be able to punish people who he sees as people he can frame as the enemy in front of his particular supporters. And those enemies, interestingly, never seem to be potentially violent, and actually violent and to the point of killing people, right? White supremacists, that's what happened in Charlottesville. But when it relates to this issue of people who are demonstrating on behalf of Black lives, all of a sudden he needs to bring in, as you mentioned, border security to really be able to go into towns and literally kidnap people, taking them away to places unknown at that, at that moment. And so it's really a disturbing reality. And unless we check that behavior as a society, right, what we consider to be America will no longer be.
Well, we will see. It is an election year, and you know how elections can go. They can surprise us, as a few elections have done. They have surprised the American people with the outcomes. And to be clear, we don't condone rioting or looting or anything like that. But if it's a peaceful protest, then you need to keep your federal troops at home. And furthermore, they really need to be invited by the governors and mayors of those locales And we should also point out that the violence on the streets of Chicago, related to other inner cities throughout America, has to be dealt with. It is a police problem. It is a police matter. It's a community matter. And if the president really wants to bring some healing, you don't do it by putting federal troops on the ground, which may exacerbate the situation rather than bringing it to a peaceful conclusion and actually bring down the violence. It's really a police matter.
Absolutely. Completely agree.
Well, Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver, we thank you for weighing in on that with your political insights. Of course, we always welcome you on this program. And for those of you who are watching, we're going to have a discussion with two Chicago youth members. They're 21 and 23. One man was shot 4 to 5 times just 3 weeks ago. He is still back on the streets to mentor the youth in Chicago to help them steer clear of violence. We'll be back with them and their CHAMPS program after the break. Welcome to the program. So we've been watching the developments as they go on throughout our country in the wake of COVID-19. This pandemic is disrupting so many lives, but it hasn't mitigated violence. We still see violence in our major cities. Here in the nation's capital, we've seen an increase in it. In other cities throughout the country, we've seen an increase in it. But what are people doing about it? So I want to bring in Bondale Singleton now. He's the vice principal at Gary Comer College Prep on the south side of Chicago. Great success rate of graduation there. The students are doing some remarkable things. And we don't hear enough about the remarkable things that children are doing in the midst of these so-called killing fields of America. Bondale, good of you to join us today. I should also mention that you're the founder of CHAMPS. Explain to us what CHAMPS is.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's always a privilege to be with you, Kelly. I always count it an honor. So CHAMPS, I started CHAMPS about 7 years ago. CHAMPS stands for Culturally Helping and Making Positive Success. And we believe in 3 E's: education, empowerment, and exposure. And our motto is we believe that every young man is born to win in every situation in life. And so it's not a talking program, it's a show me program. So we are invested every single day in empowering and educating and exposing Black and brown young men from the south side of Chicago. And we have about 17 chapters now. So the program is really taking off and growing, not just in Chicago, but in Milwaukee and Oklahoma and Louisiana and New York. So we're really, really privileged to be able to be in a position where we are developing culturally relevant conversations for boys and young men of color.
You know, that's so important because in this age of cancel culture, you're telling people that our champs are born to win. Mm-hmm. And they're strong enough to survive it because we're strong enough as their mentors to help guide them to that place called success. And it often looks different in terms of what they seek to accomplish. And the fact that you're spreading to other cities shows the success and the remarkable work being done there in Chicago. What's the ingredient that makes it work?
I always go back to consistency. Many of our young men, they have a father story where their father wasn't involved in their lives. Father's locked up or dead or, just absentee. They never met their father. And so with that story, what it does over time, it hardens the heart of the young man, the young person, being told, hey, I'm going to pick you up and take you out to Great America, right, for instance, and the father never shows up. Yeah. And the more he continues to hear that and the inconsistency of a positive male role model, whether it be a father or a family member or somebody in the neighborhood, the moment they drop that ball is the moment where walls begin to go up in a young man's life. And so our breakthrough, our strategy, what makes us so unique and set us apart as a mentoring program is we do what we say we're going to do. We follow through and we're extremely consistent in terms of supporting our boys and young men of color.
We'll be back with more of my interview with the champs right after this. Yeah, and I see that some of your guys are dialing into our conversation. I want to bring in Christian Terry right now. It's always a pleasure to run into any graduate of the CHAMPS program, or for that matter, Gary Comer College Prep. Your story, tell me about it and why you were able to make it to where you are today.
I always was known in school to be a troubled child. My mom always got called, had to come off of work and had to deal with things that I was doing in school. The main thing that I would say that made me change my way of thinking was the conversation that my mom, Mr. Singleton, and another mentor of mine, Will Carter, was in his office. And when I say it was so much built inside me towards like anger towards my mom, because my mom was there physically, right? Because she was providing for me and my sisters, right, but she wasn't there mentally and emotionally as I needed her. And that means is that I was always a parent when I went home. I had to make sure my sisters did their homework, wash up, cook, clean, make sure everything was tidy, because my mom had to work, so she couldn't do all that. So by me being a man in the house, I had to step up. And with that step up, when I was at school and adults was telling me to do certain things, I'm looking at them like, hold on, you can't tell me how to do this and how to do that, because when I leave outside this building, I'm an adult. So I feel like we are on the same level, but I'm not understanding that at the age that I was at. To have somebody like Singleton in the CHAMPS mentoring organization as 21 years old, to still be learning. I feel like there's no age where you shouldn't have a mentor. Like I need a mentor. Yeah, and I still have my mentor to this day. And I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for my mentors and CHAMPS.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear, Christian. We'll take a break. When we come back from the break, I want to talk to both of you about where we are today in terms of young Black men being recognized as contributors to greatness in our community when they're constantly denigrated by others. Back with that in just in a moment. Welcome back to the program. So I'm talking to my good friend Vondale Singleton, who is the founder and creator of CHAMPS, which is a mentoring program in Chicago on the South Side. And with him is one of his mentees, Christian Terry. Christian is 21 years of age. And to both of you, where do we find ourselves in this present time? We're troubled by the COVID-19 pandemic. We're troubled by violence. And we're also troubled by racial injustice, particularly targeting African-American men. And the young brothers are really the ones that we really have to reach out to, because I know here in Washington, most of the people committing crimes now in terms of gun violence are between the ages of 13 and 21. Vondale, before I bring in Christian, who is 21, how do you help young men or teenagers avoid the pitfalls of violence?
Yeah, so I would say with the systemic issues that we've been dealing with for centuries and generations of mindset development, really starting as early as we possibly can to engage in authentic relationships with young people, and then giving them alternatives to their situations. As Christian mentioned, it's one thing to tell them, hey, you shouldn't be carrying a gun. You shouldn't be selling drugs. You shouldn't be on a corner. Pull your pants up, right? That's one thing. But it's another thing to say, hey, we got an invitation to go to the skate rink. You want to come? What am I doing? I'm substituting their time where they are free, where they're not being developed, and giving them an alternative and providing a safe space, and we're removing barriers where they can't go out and hang on the corner. You want to know why? Because they too busy to, right? So champs, we always are engaged in planning the next event. So, yep, we went to the Chicago Police Headquarters for the I Cry. Then we went out Friday to do community service. This Friday, we're going down to the Navy Pier to do Sea Dog, right? We always engage in, okay, we here, but what's next? Why? Is because we believe that when you are guiding and you're leading young people and you're actually showing them versus telling them, as Christian mentioned, what to do, then more than likely we can reach them. And we start early. That's why we start with ages 12 and up. And we make exceptions too along the way. I get so many single moms reaching out to me saying, hey, you know, my son is 10, my son is 11. I know your program starts at 12, but he doesn't have a father. And I'm afraid that my son is going down the wrong path. Can you please help? I get so many emails, so many calls. And what Champs does, we interrupt that behavior and we give an alternative path and we present choices so that way they can choose. We never tell them what to do, but we present options and choices so that their brain can develop, and then we can begin to support their dreams and their goals. And that's really important to me because that's what my mentor did for me.
Christian, you were shown that your dreams are possible by men, adult men who really care about you and love you and want to help you develop into the young man that you have become. And there's a greater, you know, the sky's the limit, basically. You can do anything that you want to do. You know that now, but you had to make a choice, even at your young age, even as being the product of a single parent home. And I feel you on that because I too am the product of a single mother. But the point is, you had to make a choice, and you chose to allow people to show you, and then you accepted that. What made the difference?
What made the difference was somebody was listening to me. I wasn't getting told what to do. I wasn't put in a position where I have to make these type of difficult decisions. Was somebody, Singleton, listening to me about how I felt, and he taught me how to express myself without getting so mad and upset. Yeah, I think that would answer your question. But to answer your earlier question, what Singleton was saying, and I agree with, right now, at this time period with people my age and people that's under me, a lot of people are on the urge of dropping out of high school right now, right? And there's certain young man that I know that was like, man, like right now I have to think about, you know, my mom's struggling. I'm sitting at home bored. It's nothing for me to do. I need to get a job. And that's the whole thing about my generation right now. Their main focus is about getting money. And they like the easy money. So the easy money come quicker than me trying to do the most positive way. And that is the most difficult part of the work that we're trying to do, because it's so easy for them to go to their pookie uncle, cousin, and they like, hey, can you give me, you know, a pound if I can just pin myself? But it once they come to us and we talking about, you know, going to college or getting this type of job or getting this type of this, it's like now they kind of confused, right? So when they confuse, they like, well, I got 1 foot in and I got 1 foot out. What happens with that is that 1 foot in, 1 foot out, it's not gonna do this. It's not gonna stick, because it's no way that you can have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You need to have it all in, because once you visualize yourself at a place that you never thought that you would ever be at, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
So when my mentors was taking me downtown, taking me to conferences, taking me to meet people that look like me, that's successful, then I had to make the choices. I had to make the choice. This is the lifestyle that I want to live. So my thing is, when people say you lose friends, you lose friends. I have lost a lot of friends because I'm telling them, I don't have time to be trying to hang out on the block with you and do this with you, because I'm so in focus with this that I don't have time for the nonsense. Right. So once you occupy yourself about something that's positive, then you will get positive results.
The bottom line is you become too legit to quit, and you keep on striving to become better every day. And that's so important. Vondale and Christian, stay with me. I want to come back and talk about the I Cry campaign and what you experienced there in terms of working with the police in the community of Chicago, and how that may help police reform nationwide. Back with more of Vondale Singleton and Christian Terry after this. You recently went to I Cry, which is a campaign there in Chicago, and it was with the police department. What was that like? And because, you know, we've got Black Lives Matter, and many people are saying defund the police. And when they say defund police, they don't mean take all the money away, but they mean put that money into vital resources that can help people on the streets. But tell me what it was like for you personally to be engaging with police officers there at the I Cry event.
I don't feel like all policemen are bad. I don't feel like all policemen are doing this and all doing that. I just feel like there are little bad apples in the tree, right? That's with anybody. But that it was a mother that was on the panel right when we got started. The whole room got quiet because when they had announced her name, she was in tears. So for me, I had to take a moment and, you know, and breathe, because this is every day. This is every day that we hear this story. And I feel for her. She was just saying, my son is, you know, he wasn't like this and he wasn't like that. And it's always that story is the wrong place at the wrong time. But that mother to say, you know, how she felt and the pain that she was in. And I'm glad that she said that while the youth was in there. And the reason why I say that, because it was so much youth in there. And when they got up and spoke, the solutions that they were saying was that we feel like the police are against us. Right? So when you have that in your head, because what we see on the media, we are animals. We are this. We are that. We are this and that. And as a Black man, I'm looking at this and say, that person look like me. Is this what we supposed to be doing? And the police is doing this to the Black man. That's why I don't like the police. You see, that's where their mindset are going. Because on the news, only thing I see is Black men getting shot. Police is breaking up this rally. They doing this. They're doing tear gas. They're doing that and that. And now what I'm thinking in my mind is that you're an enemy to me. Because that's what the media is showing me, that you're an enemy to me. So the thing is that one solution can definitely be, back in the day when my grandmother was raising her 7 kids on the south side of Chicago, they said the police officers used to come out and play basketball, barbecue. They used to have that. So getting that community piece back, because it takes a village. A lot of people don't know it takes a village to uplift the community, because it's not just going to take one person. And what Mr. Singleton said that was very important at I Cry we have this organization, that organization, that organization, that organization. All of these fantastic organizations have something to offer. Why don't we just come together and fill the gaps? Once you fill the gaps, the solutions will come easy. You know, so it's definitely there. I just feel like we just need to come together as one. And I believe that is the way that we need to go, in the route that we need to go. And stop. Yeah, we just need to stop, you know, visualizing this, because social media is a mind tool in my book. But I feel like everybody is different. We just need to accept people for who they are and open up a little bit more to understand what's going on with, you know, certain individuals.
All right, Christian Terry, thank you. And Vondale, I can't say enough about the friendship that I value to the utmost with you, brother. Keep on doing the great work that you're doing, and know that this program is here to serve as your platform for the greatness that the great seeds that you're sowing into some of the young brothers out there who really, really have a passion for fashion of success. Thank you, Christian Terry. Vondale Singleton. We'll be back with more of the program after this. So we have one of your other mentees who has joined us, Champs. Tell us about him, and then we'll talk to him.
Yeah, so Denzel, this young man, was also at the very beginning of the Champs program, very active at Gary Comer College Prep as a student, hailing from the south side of Chicago. But what I noticed about Denzel was he had the responsibility to be an example for, you know, his younger brothers. And his younger brother came through the school as well. But Denzel will always try his best to fight against these obstacles in the neighborhood and community. He will always find himself back with the Champs program, you know, serving, helping, and he too was a mentee and now is serving as a Champs staff member, as a mentor with the Champs program. Not too much difference in age between Christian and Denzel. So, you know, you kind of had them around the school around the same years on the back end. Denzel graduated a year or two before Christian, but nonetheless, just really, really proud to have young men who were mentees now that they're mentors and working to give back is really powerful.
And what's your message to young Black men across America in terms of achieving their goals, knowing that they have to go through so many obstacles just to get there?
What I tell them mainly, just stay focused. Don't lose focus on what you want to become in life. You know, it starts at a young age. You know, practice make perfect, and you can become successful. You just got to stick to it.
What did you go through personally there in Chicago that could have stopped you from even being able to talk to us today?
So I recently, like 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I got shot 5 times, and I was just walking my aunties to the car, and you know, a car pulled up and got the shooting. They said it was mistaken identity, but I don't see why you're just shooting innocent people, random people.
And how are you? First of all, I'm sorry that happened to you, and it's remarkable that you're alive to talk about it.
Yeah.
But it also underscores what's happening on our streets and how it's so important that we have to save each other from mass destruction. Just the fact that you're talking to me is remarkable. And what are you trying to tell people based on your experience with someone in a drive-by shooting at you?
Um, Stay aware. Be aware of your surroundings. Um, Make sure you see what I did. I was walking by faith, and with God, and it was at night when it happened. So I really wasn't, you know, aware of my surroundings. I was just taking my aunties to the car and coming back up to my house, and people they just pulled up. But what I mainly say, just stay aware.
Mm.
Yeah. Denzel, while we stay aware and walk by faith, as you talked about, which is a good thing to do, having faith in God
Mm,
never hurts anybody. And certainly in
no.
your circumstance, it helped you overcome being shot 5 times. Uh,
Yeah.
but how do we, in your opinion, how do we get over this violence that we inflict on each other in our hoods, in our communities? How do we get past this?
We gotta come together. Stop holding grudges. Some things are meant to be let go and just move on to bigger and better. You know.
So when you're mentoring young brothers through the Champs program, uh,
Hmm.
and you're eye to eye, nose to nose with them, talking to them, what's your message to them? How do you talk to them?
I want them to finish school. I know. I actually see some on the streets, and I talk to them then. I see them around the neighborhoods. I talk to them then. It's the same message. Stay in school. Stay focused. If you want to start your own clothing line, start your own business, start it now. If you need some help, that's why your mentors is here for us. And for me, even Vondell is here for me. Christian is here for me. And we here. We can support you. We can help you, help guide you to be successful. Let's do it.
Denzel, thank you for that, and Christian, thank you for your comments too, and because both of you are saying the same things that Von Dales was saying. That's why this conversation is so important. And Denzel and Christian, I'd like to let you know that I'm here for you. I'm hundreds of miles away, but I'm still here for you through prayer, through a phone call, through a conversation. And Von Dale, that's the way we have to be if we're going to really succeed, because look, people on the outside looking into our community saying Black America is not going to make it if they keep killing each other. And the
Absolutely.
conversation that sometimes we're afraid to have. Why? We're not afraid to pull out a gun and shoot somebody in a drive-by. That's cowardice, first of all. But why can't we have a conversation where we sit down at the table and really find our brotherhood? That's why I love the fact that all three of you are on this show talking about what really matters. And that's life, living it abundantly, and living it and sharing our community strength and getting our mindsets right. So I appreciate you, Vondell, for what you're doing through Champs. Sum it all up for me before we go.
I love the power of mentorship, right? Is because it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't
Right.
matter where you came from. I came from the Otta B. Wells housing projects, and according to that, I should have been locked up or dead before 18. Most people just don't make it out of those situations, especially coming from where we come from, right? Chicago is a very unique city. And I've been to New York, I've been to LA, I've been to Atlanta, I've been all over the United States. But when I come back to Chicago, it's something different about Chicago. And people say, if you can make it in Chicago, you can make it anywhere in the world, right? And so to be able to navigate these systemic issues, the epidemic of gun violence, we dealing with a pandemic, we got racial injustice going on. And so we are from ancestors who are the strongest of the strongest of the strongest. To be able to be here, there are multiple layers on our story, on our survival. There's a lot that Denzel can talk about in writing. He can write a whole book on what happened 3 or 4 weeks ago, right? But according to the statistics, he's not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
So like I told him, God has purpose. God has meaning. It's a reason why he allowed you to live through this, because within 24 hours of that, he reached out to me and said he wanted to talk about the gun violence in the city of Chicago. He wanted to teach summer campers for 8 weeks. And I told him to put a lesson plan together. And he put the lesson plan together and texted me and said, check your email the same day he was shot. That's how I know it's something bigger. It's a lot of things that we don't fully understand. I don't understand why my mentor, Steve Robertson, took a liking to me in '97 and said, I see something in you, that I want to take you out and get you on a plane. And he said the same thing I did for you, do for somebody else. And this is why I'm so passionate, is because we never know who the Christians are. We never know who the Denzels are. And if we don't stop and realize that if I don't extend what I have, my success, and pass it on to somebody else, then it's failure. I'll put it to you like this. Success without a successor is failure. So my role and my responsibility is to ensure that the next generation is straight. Their role and their responsibility is to pay it forward. So now what they have received, they have to freely give. And I think the more that we do that, the more we realize that we can not just save Black America, but we can reform and we can reinvent a new Black America.
Yeah.
Fondell, appreciate you, man. Denzel Bradley, Christian Terry, keep on doing what you're doing. And so glad that you're safe and well and still staying in the fight to raise more champions of hope, of love, of freedom and peace. Thank you, gentlemen. Champs. We'll be back with more after this. Welcome back to the program. I do want to thank all of my guests who appeared on tonight's program. And I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time out to watch. Hopefully we are learning what we can do in our inner cities to change it, to transform them. It is so important. My final word is this. Hopefully we've been righted, ignited, and united to not spread hate, not spread racism or violence, but to spread love, freedom, and peace. Good night.
The rhythm of love is easy to find if you're listening. The color of light isn't red, black, or white, but it's crimson. We all bleed the same. If you don't feel the groove, it's alright. Just give it time, give it time. Come on, y'all. Get on board. Mankind won't survive if our hearts beat inside a hateful rhythm. You see, love isn't bought, but comes with a price of forgiveness, and we all bleed the same. Yeah. If you don't feel it now, just wait. It's coming on, the love train.